Greetings, Pathfinders. I'm Dustin Knight, Paizo freelance author and Pathfinder Infinite master who reviews all the latest and greatest Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite products on Infiknight Reviews. We're here today to talk about Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite. And with me today, I have
I'm Alexander Augunas.
Oh. I don't know if we're going in order or alphabetical or how we're doing this.
Let's just, we'll go in alphabetical.
By going in alphabetical order.
Yeah, alphabetical order would be fine.
All right, then if we're going alphabetical, I'm Alexander Augunas. I'm No Directions Everyman Gamer. I am the publisher of Everyman Gaming LLC. I'm also a Paizo freelancer, and I also wrote a No Direction article, or I guess saying I wrote it isn't accurate. I led the creation of our Infinite Possibilities series, which was sort of like how do you use Infinite Possibilities, and how do you use Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite. So I know all about the resources. I have a couple of big products, and I'm really excited to be here today.
Excellent. And also joining us is Andrew White.
Hi, I'm Andrew White. I work at Paizo trying to keep the website from exploding most of the time. I also do a lot of freelancing for Paizo, and I wrote a thing for Infinite called the Danger Dossier, which I'm super proud of. And now I'm on this panel with a bunch of people that wrote a lot of other Infinite things. Hi.
Hi. And we have Lysa Penrose.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lysa Penrose. I've worn many hats in tabletop, including being a game designer myself, but today I am here as the marketing manager over at Drive-Thru RPG, which powers Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite.
My favorite hat is the fox ears, by far.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
We have a theme.
I know. Andrew missed the memo.
Oh, no. Today we're going to talk a bit about what makes Starfinder and Pathfinder Infinite so great and what the best practices are for folks who might be interested in getting started. And then we'll open up to Q&A in the chat in case anybody has any questions about producing or marketing their own products. For those who don't know, Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite are community content programs hosted on Drive-Thru RPG that allow publishers to use Paizo's intellectual property to produce content. So if you have any RPG ideas that you've wanted to produce yourself and set in Golarion using a wide selection of Paizo's images and other resources, you could do so and get it published and sold on Pathfinder Infinite. So we will go ahead and get started alphabetically with Alex. You've been a third-party publisher for years and are an accomplished Infinite master known for your Kitsune Golarion release, which just got Electrum, I believe, yesterday. So when someone comes to you with, what is this Infinite thing, what do you tell them?
Well, Pathfinder Infinite, to me, is a way that is a really effective way for authors who may not have the know-how or the resources to really push themselves into a third-party space to create third-party content using characters, stories, and settings that are really integral to the Pathfinder experience. It's a great way to cut your teeth, so to speak, working and writing. But it's also just a really fun way to feel like you're contributing and expanding to the lore of Golarion, the Pact World system, the universe, whatever you want to do.
Right. That is true. And there's a lot of lore that you could expand on using this awesome program. So Andrew White, you wrote one of the best Starfinder Infinite releases, Danger Dossier. What about Infinite excites you?
So I think one of the cool things about Infinite is that it's... Well, the joke that I always like to make about Danger Dossier is that it was an opportunity to fix the only flaw with Starfinder by putting froghemoths into it. Which, I mean, that's. I think we can all agree that that's really the only thing with Starfinder. That's the only thing that the designers left out in the original thing, and it's otherwise a completely flawless system. But there's no froghemoths in it, and now that's been fixed. But it is the kind of thing where it's like, yeah, you know what? I like Starfinder, but I really wish that there was a planet that had nothing but boggards on it or something. I wonder what the what my favorite random Pathfinder race is up to in the Starfinder thing, and because there's so many of them, they didn't make it into the original cut. Well, now I can write my own supplement now, and I can add that. And same with Pathfinder 2. Now that Pathfinder 2 is out, if there's something from Pathfinder 1 that hasn't yet been fleshed out in Pathfinder 2, whether that's a class or a species or a part of Galarian, you can flesh that out now. Or if it's something that literally never got touched on because it's so niche or it's so random and weird that it wasn't really worth devoting an entire book to, you can just throw it down on a page and say, yeah, you know what? This is just my weird, dumb idea. It's not actually worth devoting a bunch of time and resources to, but now I've got it out of my head, and yeah, maybe somebody will give me 99 cents for it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think. I mean, those are three completely different uses of Infinite, but basically, I guess what I'm getting at is that I think it's just a cool way of scratching various creative itches when it comes to Pathfinder and Starfinder, and really any Paizo IP that you happen to feel like creating something for.
Exactly.
If
Exactly.
if I've learned one thing in my 10 years being a third-party publisher, it's that every single time that you think that there is a niche out there that people aren't hitting, and the truth is actually that there is a large group of people who want the thing and just have never been serviced, and then your product comes out and they're like, yes, the thing, it's finally mine. I have a couple of those for first edition Pathfinder where I was like, I'm going to write a rule set for if you want to play Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and then shrink them. And then it's like, all right, well, I guess now this is actually way more popular than I thought because I keep getting people asking me for more. And Infinite is a lot of the same way. Like, you might think that you're the only person who cares about that one small village that is mentioned in, whatever product in like just a single line, and you're the only person who cares about it. But then you go and you write your full write-up of this village, and then all of a sudden, you're Electrum on Drive-Thru RPG, and it's like, oh. So, like, being writing for Pathfinder Infinite, taking your time to really expand the setting is not only a really good way for you to really put yourself out there, cut your, get some work out and figure out, what you want, get some money for it, but then also, like, maybe show the Pathfinder team and the Starfinder team, hey, there's actually a lot of people who are interested about this thing, and in that way you're helping to grow and support the hobby in ways that you might never have thought were possible.
Well,
Indeed,
I can say
indeed.
it's a daily occurrence. Also within Paizo itself, people will come up with some random idea on the internal chat channels, and somebody will say, "Put it on Infinite." And I mean, most of us don't have time to actually do it, but somebody should. Whether it's an idea of like, "Hey, let's come up with a book of Thuvian drink recipes," or let's. It doesn't matter how niche it is. There's room for it. It's a whole world of random crap you can come up with. So do it is what I'm
Yeah,
saying. No matter how weird your idea is, just do it.
Well, now I'm totally
Everyone
jonesing for
froze
a Sun
me.
Orc and
Okay, there
martini.
we go.
Right?
Everyone
Yeah.
froze for me for a second. Sorry about that.
Oops, no problem
okay.
there. And this is a great time, though, to introduce Lysa. You help with all the marketing things for Drive-Thru RPG and all the sites powered by Drive-Thru RPG, such as Pathfinder Infinite. What can you tell us about how these programs have developed and evolved, and what's so amazing about them?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we've already touched on a few different ways to kind of define what a community content program is. So, it is at its most basic a marketplace, but it's also its own special license. So, on Pathfinder Infinite, you get to play in the sandbox that is the Lost Omen setting, which is pretty exciting. But I think what is also a huge part of programs like Infinite is that you are joining a community of creators. People who are probably some of like the biggest fans of any particular system that the program is about. So Pathfinder or Starfinder, who care about it so much they want to create for it. And it really is the community that helps shape what these marketplaces become, how they grow, the types of titles and products that people seek or expect when they come to the marketplace. So it's particularly exciting for me that Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite are relatively young programs, because it means that there's so much influence that any particular creator could have when they're coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And if anybody out there would like to find themselves a community of Pathfinder Infinite creators and devotees, you could go ahead and check out Infiknight.net, which is my own Discord community we have over 250 creators of Pathfinder Infinite and fans. You could get in contact with them, ask them questions, learn about new products, and all other sorts of things, including collaboration. There's a bunch of guides, links to resources, everything you need to get started on, or just find your next favorite product on Pathfinder Infinite. And that felt like a good time to plug that.
I have one other point to mention, which is Alex brought up that maybe your niche titles could catch the attention of Paizo, but you as a creator might also catch their attention, because the publishers that run these community content programs really keep an eye on the community. They look out for names of different creators who keep popping up, folks who play well within the community, who consistently design quality things, or who are consistently organizing group projects, collaborations, anthologies. So publishing on Pathfinder or Starfinder Infinite gives you access to things like maybe Paizo uses their marketing muscle to shout out one of your creations that they think is a really good representation of the community and the game. Or maybe you even get tapped by Paizo to join the Infinite Masters program, which is select creators who get early access to upcoming releases, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's
It
super
really is.
exciting.
Yeah, it really is. And if you want to learn more about how to get started on Pathfinder or Starfinder Infinite from the official sources, I'm going to go ahead and drop that guide into chat, as there's this great guide by DriveThruRPG that will help you learn all about that. And if you've been checking out the official Paizo blog, there's been some great information about all the new people who were brought onto the Infinite Masters program and some of their newest releases. So when we're all very excited to have been tapped for that. Moving on though, we'll just go alphabetically again. Alex, do you have any advice for people who want to get started on Pathfinder or Starfinder Infinite and aren't sure where to get started or how to get started?
Well, I think the most important thing that people should consider when you are going to get started is, do you have an idea that you can put out right away? Because it's one thing to say, I want to write on Pathfinder Infinite, I want to write on Starfinder Infinite, but if you don't have a core concept of a product that you want to put out, you're going to find that it's really difficult and maybe frustrating. So like for me, I always encourage people to wait until they have that idea, that spark that gets them really excited to go through. Because if you don't have motivation that comes from having an idea in your head that needs to get out, then it's going to be hard and you'll be much more likely to put it down and walk away from it. Pathfinder Infinite and Starfinder Infinite has some really great templates and some really great community resources that you can use to make your first product if you're not someone who's like sat down and really worked hard to understand like Adobe InDesign or Affinity Publisher. Those are some of the major programs that you can use to create your product. But even if you just sit down and use one of the word templates, like you can make a good quality product with a little bit of time, effort, and energy. I think that that's definitely the place to start. And then from there, you might even want to kind of look and see like what types of products are coming out, what types of products have come out, and sort of use that to guide your selection in your topic. Like if you know that Rage of the Elements has been announced, do you want to put out your big elemental book now, or do you want to wait a couple months to see how that book rolls out? If you put out Rage of the Elements when Rage of the Elements comes out, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that's the kind of thing that the Infinite Masters program is really looking for, quality content creators who can directly support new releases, right?
Yeah, that's a big focus of the program.
Definitely. So like if you know that like, oh, I bet I could put out this big product, and then if people really like it, you might get an email from Lysa and she's like, hey, you did real good. You want to join this elite team of freelancers and or independent creators who want to make all this great stuff, and it works out really well. The other thing is like if you're really passionate about something and you have that energy, like just do it, because chances are if you really like a topic or a thing that doesn't get a lot of coverage, then chances are other people like it too. The product for Pathfinder Infinite that I am most well known for, as you can see from my gorgeous background, is Kitsune of Galarian. I am a huge Kitsune fan. I am, yeah. You might want to mute that. Like, I'm hearing train o'clock over here.
Oop.
Kitsune of Galarian. Yeah, I know. Someone just wanted to know that like the foxes are in the house today. But one of the things for Kitsune of Galarian is like I'm like, all right, well, I love this player ancestry. I want more people to have this content. So I'm going to go out here. I'm going to make this product. I went out and I found a bunch of other authors who were from different regions of the world that have their own fox mythologies. I brought them all together and I was like, I'm going to pay you guys some money and you guys are going to give me some awesome content. And we put together this really great product. And that's sort of like one of the major, I guess, themes and designs for how that book worked. And then from there, you just kind of go and see what people like and what people don't like.
Awesome. And of course, you could find Kitsune Galarian and a bunch of other great titles in the Gen Con Infinite Community Mega Bundle, which there is a link in chat if you want to check that out, for over $200 worth of products for $24.99. And it's doing great, and everyone involved is loving it. So, Andrew White, same question. What advice would you give people who really want to start writing and aren't sure how to get there? What hurdles have you found that people have been able to overcome, and how?
So one thing that I would bring up that I think a lot of people might not immediately be aware of is that Infinite isn't necessarily about rules content only. I think a lot of people look at Infinite and they think like, okay, well, I'm not necessarily a designer. How do I go about designing an ancestry or a bunch of spells or feats or stuff from scratch? And they forget that you can write a whole bunch of stuff without actually writing a single line of rules text at all. You could write fiction. You could write just lore. You could, like we were talking about before, you could just pick some random village that was referenced in a single line in an adventure path once and flesh that out entirely with NPCs and history and points of interest and all of that, and sell that on Infinite as a product that people can just dump into their own campaigns without writing a single line of rules text. You could go weird with, like we were talking about before, with the book of Thuvian drink recipes. You could write a Michelin guide to restaurants in Geb, which would be deeply unsettling. Probably don't do that. But yeah, I mean, you can do all kinds of different things that aren't necessarily the standard. Again, it's an opportunity to break the standard RPG book mold that I think people have come to expect and are usually put out by RPG companies, because RPG companies have to stick to a particular mold because of what's necessarily marketable. You can make whatever you want. You can take the Paizo, Pathfinder, and Starfinder IPs and you can bend them into whatever form you want. And then you can find out how many or how few people are actually interested in giving you money for them. But, ultimately, it's about the fun of creating them, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is another advantage that Pathfinder Infinite creators have over the Paizo material is we have, since it's a digital only product, it's very easy to update and change. I've seen lots of great products out there that a fan will come up and be like, isn't there supposed to be a duration on that poison? As happened to me once. And yeah, within 5 minutes, I was able to get the updated PDF out there. Just open InDesign, go in there, and oh yeah, that was supposed to say 1 minute. Oops. Okay, 1 minute. It's updated. Things like that. There's a lot of flexibility that comes in being a independent, or I guess in this case would be semi-independent publisher on Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite.
Or you could just say, I'm not bound by the laws of standard Pathfinder rules. That poison lasts forever.
Yes, yes, yes.
You don't
Okay.
need that
Definitely.
either. That's terrible design, but you could do that. You're not.
Oh my
Oh no.
gosh. Is this a Paizo employee telling us to break all of Paizo's rules here on the Infinite Masters program? Oh man.
That's what they get for letting me on this panel.
Oh no. Well, Lisa, do you find that there are any problems newer publishers tend to get into that you think you could help resolve before they come up for anyone out there who's looking to get into Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the advice that people tend to give new creators in general is to just get started. Some people add the qualifier, get started, but do it with intention. I wish things were as simple as that. So the first is things that might be holding you back from just getting started. Limiting your scope. I saw someone in the live chat mention that they have a plan, but they don't really know where it ends. Maybe you have an idea for this level 1 through 20 campaign. That is a huge first project to tackle, starting with a first encounter, maybe just a level 1 adventure, or 5 NPCs who belong in your world, is a great way to get started, start getting feedback from the community on your creations and what is resonating with people and what isn't, and also just kind of get those first time nerves out of the way. The other thing that I think people struggle with is accountability. If you're creating something to self-publish, you don't necessarily have someone hounding you regarding deadlines and all of that. So for folks who struggle with that, I recommend taking a course by an organization like Storytelling Collective. There are other options out there, but they have seasonal Write Your First Adventure workshops that are particularly great for folks who are first-time creators and want a little more guidance and, again, the accountability of that group class setting. For Pathfinder Infinite specifically, and other community content programs, I definitely recommend reading through the guidelines before you publish your work, but especially, I mean, even before you are deciding what you want to work on, just to make sure they are in the scope of the program. There is a getting started page that is linked on the bottom of our marketplace, but if you go to bit.ly/PFI start. That's a quick link to send you there, and it kind of guides you through the different sections of the guidelines. Mostly, I feel like people maybe forget certain rules like logos that are required to be on your covers. And another thing that new creators kind of fall into is using artwork that you do not have a commercial license to use. There are options even built into Pathfinder Infinite to help you avoid that. There are Paizo art packs. Drive-Through RPG has a lot of free or cheap stock art as well. And then there's also options like websites like Unsplash if you want to have more of a photo approach to artwork in your creations.
Right, right. And one of the greatest things about Pathfinder Infinite is you get access to all the community use artwork from Paizo, which are most of the pictures posted to the blogs, big packets of artwork you could download from PathfinderInfinite.com. And there are many communities out there like Infinite.net that have pinned resources in Discord channels and what have you that have big lists of places where you can get artwork. You could even find some publishers, like I know Eldritch Osiris Games likes to help new creators with, I'll do the layout work and I'll find you artwork for your book, in exchange for some of the share of your product, which that's also a great resource for people who are confident about their writing, but not so much about the technical side of things and getting a product out to market.
Yeah, the blog is actually a huge resource that I think a lot of people often forget. Is there are a lot of we have the community resource packs that you can download, and there are all the packs that we put out on Infinite itself. But people forget that there are 18 years of blog posts out
Yes.
there, various monster art. And I mean, actually, I can't confirm or deny whether or not you could use like 18-year-old photos of Eric Mona as NPCs.
No,
Can you? Oh, too
unfortunately
bad.
not.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Photographs and some of the artwork from especially the older days of the blog you can't use. I've assembled a Dropbox with all of the blog art. I've done about 14 of the 18 years. I'm still getting there because it's literally just scrolling down and downloading every image. And you can
mhm.
find a link to that on my Infinite Discord, infinite.net. But make sure to reverse Google image search the image and see who the artist was and make sure it's part of the community use. But there's information in there about that.
But there are a lot of fantastic monster images in particular on that you can use.
Yeah, there really, really is. We had a question here. What was it? Oh, right. Someone in chat was asking, is Infinite appropriate for brainstorming, or is someone else better than that? Well, Infinite is, if you don't mind me answering that, Infinite is a place to put your products when they're fully formed. For brainstorming, there are many different communities. I've seen most Pathfinder Discords I'm on now have their own channel. In addition, there's communities like the Pathfinder 2e creation subreddit. There's the Drive-Through RPG Discord. There's Facebook groups out there where you could get a better idea of brainstorming with people. I've seen a lot of Pathfinder Infinite products that made that have topped the charts that came from just people on communities talking to each other. People saying like, "Oh man, I wish this class, was a little better." And someone going, well, would you like a product written by a bunch of different people to come together and make this class have some extra feat options? And from there, it just exploded into its own product. You just get with a bunch of other creative people and make a little project Discord and or Facebook or group or what have you, and you start collaborating on ideas together. And it really does create a wonderful sense of community that can help fuel your imagination with all those uh, other people.
I would love to piggyback on that.
Please.
And shout out our royalty splitting tool. So it's actually built into the structure of our marketplaces that it is easy to collaborate with other creators. So whether that is in an artist you're working with, or you want to split royalties with an editor or someone you're co-designing with, you can, as long as you have the email address associated with their Infinite account, you can use our royalty splitting tool so that they automatically just receive a portion of royalties directly into their account, and you don't have to fuss with that. What that means is that if you are, again, a new designer and you're not really sure where to start, and creating your own project all by yourself from scratch seems super intimidating, you could find someone who's recruiting writers for a collaborative project. Or even if you have project management skills, start your own anthology of some sort. And that way, everyone contributes maybe one encounter or a short adventure. Um, but the entire title has tons of encounters and adventures or player options, all based around a theme, and it's kind of like the sum is of the whole is greater than its parts sort of situation. I'm not hearing. I'm not hearing Dustin, so you might be
Oops,
muted.
there we go. I'm back.
All right, now I can hear you.
Yes, just had a train. Yeah, definitely what you said. If there was a community like this 8 years earlier, I would have started writing and role playing games 5 years sooner. It's a really does make it easy, fun, and engaging to collaborate on platforms like Pathfinder Infinite. I would also like to point out, though, does anyone here have any experience when it comes to integrating VTT with your Pathfinder Infinite projects or third-party projects? Because I know that's a big, big topic that people really want to hear about.
In my experience, VTT integration has a variety of levels of success, right? Like if you're making a bunch of new feats, that's pretty easy to do, especially with something like Foundry. It's a little bit harder on Roll20, which really doesn't have that sort of like internal library of options yet, at least as far as the last time I've checked. But when you're doing something that requires a little bit more that's more complicated and requires more work, like that one's a little bit iffier. Like a really good example is that if you're trying to design a new class and your class uses this really cool, innovative mechanic, like maybe you get a set of feats that you just swap in and out every other day. That's going to be a lot harder to see something for support on for Foundry or any similar tabletop, virtual tabletop, just because of the logistics of making something like that happen. And as someone who has actively looked into programming those things and like getting someone who's more of an expert to hire, it's like very expensive to do. I bet Andrew knows a lot more about this than I do, because Andrew was much more on the tech side of things at Paizo. Obviously he's here because he's written the Danger dossier and is an author, but at least from like a tech standpoint, getting a lot of those supports can be very expensive. So like your mileage varies in my experience on how likely it is to get that type of virtual tabletop support for your product.
It's challenging. I mean, I can't pretend to be an expert on this either, because I haven't actually done any development on the Foundry Pathfinder system, for instance. But I play a lot of games with it. I'm familiar with it. I use it on a regular basis, and I've been a part of facilitating the partnership between Paizo and the people that have made our premium modules for Foundry. I think the biggest issue with that has been the modularity of the system. The Pathfinder system that for Foundry is extremely modular, but it's still difficult to publish standalone content that can be easily plugged in with a guarantee that it won't mess with the system itself or potentially have bad interactions with other modules in a way that could corrupt data or mess with other games or things like that. It's definitely possible, and I've seen it done, but it's still kind of Wild West at the moment.
Right.
And there's not really. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on this, and nobody should take exactly what I'm saying to be an authoritative statement on it. But I think it's still in a fairly early stage of development when it comes to these sorts of things. They definitely exist, and I have seen people putting them out there and publishing new classes and new feats and entirely new systems in modules that extend the functionality of the Foundry system and the Pathfinder 2 system in compendiums, while also actually adding functionality to the system, to the core software itself. But they are a little bit out of the reach, I think, of most people. That they're more complex, I think, than simply just writing a PDF for something like a Starfinder or Pathfinder Infinite, I guess is what I'm saying.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you do want guides on that, I did want to show new publishers a link there in chat to a Discord community called the Pathfinder Foundry 2E Foundry VTT community server, where they have a bunch of people who are more than happy to help you, even if you just have. I mean, I've had problems programming my own feats into Foundry where I'll just miss a comma, and there'll be someone in there who's more than happy to look over it and be like, "Oh yeah, you're giving us more content for Foundry for Pathfinder 2. That's great. Yeah, there's just you missed a comma right there. Like, oh, awesome, thank you. It works now. Everything's great."
Yeah,
and they have a bunch of.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying the Pathfinder Discords and the Pathfinder on Foundry Discords in particular are incredibly helpful when it comes to people. No matter how simple you might think your question is, people are more than happy to jump in and help answer whatever questions you might have.
Yeah.
If you
Uh,
are less of a rules writer, more of an adventure writer, and you want to enable game masters to set up your adventure in pretty much any virtual tabletop, making sure that there are high resolution battle maps is
mm,
very crucial. And then a bonus that would be what I would focus on first. And then a bonus to that would be including tokens for every single creature or NPC that you mention. Um, and I know that, for example, on Roll20, which is the virtual tabletop I'm most familiar with, pro users right now are able to upload a PDF into their game. So they could just put your game PDF right there and reference it. And then they can use those assets to set up the game. And I know that that PDF reader function is rolling out to users at large later in August as well. So it's not one or the other, like completely convert it or just have PDFs. You can have sort of a hybrid as well.
Yeah, I would agree with what
Mhm.
Lisa said. I think that adventure content is definitely a lot more approachable for the most part, because if you're converting adventure content, you basically can provide maps. Depending on the system, you can provide walls, dynamic lighting, maps and tokens, and then a PDF to provide journal entries or what have you to describe how the adventure is supposed to unfold. It's just when you start adding stuff to the system that things start getting a little bit complicated. But again, the more that I think about it, considering how modular the system is, that may not be as complicated as it was not too long ago. So I don't know. Maybe I'm overcomplicating it. Maybe it's more approachable now than it's definitely more approachable now than it was a year ago, and I'm sure it'll be even more approachable a year from now. So who knows? It's a golden age.
yeah, I love the adventures on Pathfinder Infinite. That they have this maps as separate files. They have all the tokens in there, all sorted out for you. It's a really wonderful resource, and people have done some great stuff with that. And as long as we're talking about the technical side of things, I'm going to start with Andrew. What software did you use to write Danger Dossier?
So I totally cheated because I literally just wrote everything in Word, and then I worked with a friend of Paizo and really friend of the community and friend of everybody, Owen Casey Stevens, and he did all of the layout and published it through his community, Rogue Genius Games. So I did absolutely nothing except for helping find some of the art and actually doing all of the writing and stuff. Um, so I believe it was done with InDesign. Beyond that, I don't have a clue, but he did an amazing job, and it turned out fantastic.
He did, and there's a lot of great publishers over Pathfinder Infinite looking to help other people get their work out like that. So that is a wonderful resource. And how about you, Alex?
I use InDesign for mine personally. What I do is I basically am an Adobe Suite subscriber. Adobe Suite is nice. You can get a access to their stock art library. They have like a font library. There's a lot of good stuff you can do. And if you plan on publishing frequently and making a lot of product and a lot of content, then it definitely is a thing that will pay for itself in time. It is a little bit more on the expensive side, though. So if you're not looking to put out like a high amount of content, then it's probably might not be best for you. You might want to look at using Affinity Publisher instead, which has very similar programs and usages. But the difference is that Affinity Publisher is a one-time purchase, whereas Adobe is a subscription-based model. So you will end up spending less on Affinity. Adobe's tools, in my experience, are a little bit stronger, and they have more things at your disposal. Like you get Photoshop, you get you Illustrator. There we go. You get Illustrator, and that lets you kind of put together more, lets you do more with what you have.
Yeah, I noticed I haven't had a chance to download and test it out myself, but there is many templates on Pathfinder Infinite for use in Affinity, Illustrator, even Word. There was even one release during the convention, an InDesign template that looks promising that I want to check out myself. Lisa, what software have you? Is there any other suites that you know other people use to release their work?
Yeah, so we've mentioned the three that we usually recommend. So if you're only focused on digital PDFs and you don't have a lot of resources to invest up front, if you have Microsoft Office, Word is totally a possibility for PDF only content. Honestly, that's what I used for laying out my first creation, my first adventure that I made. Word starts to get funky if you're creating a document that is particularly long. Weird stuff starts happening where like you press enter and like everything misaligns suddenly. But if you're doing a pretty limited scope project, only available as a PDF, you have the tools that you need. There are really great templates and guides for using Word for this type of publishing. Um, After that, we would recommend InDesign and the Adobe suite or Affinity Publisher. The latter goes on sale a lot. So again, if your funds are limited, I would either find a coupon code or wait for it to go on sale, in which case I believe it's like often like kind of around $30. That is also a very powerful tool. We have on the Drive Through RPG side a ton of tutorials for Affinity. And if you ever aspire to do a print on demand project on Drive Through RPG, you cannot use Word for that. You would need to use something like Affinity or InDesign.
Excellent, excellent. And as long as I have you all here, I'll go ahead and start with Andrew. Do you have any recent news, anything that you're proud of, anything you want to shout out to that you haven't a chance to yet before everything ends?
Well, before everything ends, what do you know that I don't?
Before the panel ends.
Okay. Well, I mean, as far as Infinite goes, I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of ideas that I would like to do, and I think that this ultimately is the biggest challenge to Infinite is actually sitting down and doing it, which I think is just the challenge to writing stuff in general. I have a lot of Infinite projects. Most of them, the type of sort of small, stupid, weird ideas that I was kind of pitching earlier as a great jumping off point. That at some point I need to sit down and do, and hopefully will at some point. And hopefully, having been on this panel will be the kind of uh, just sort of the kick in the butt that I need to motivate myself to actually write at least some of them and get some of that stuff off the ground. But until then, no, I don't have anything except of course for completely non-Infinite related, all of the fine VTT products that Paizo has been putting out lately for the VTT platform Foundry, which including Bloodlords, which the first volume of which launched yesterday. And of course, we were just talking about Foundry, so it's peripherally related at best, but it is related. So I haven't completely derailed the conversation. Thank you.
Oh no, it's great. I put a link in there for everyone. Yeah, the Foundry, the Bloodlord on Foundry looks incredible. It looks amazing. If I find if my group of players decides we all want to play Bloodlords, that's definitely the route I'm taking.
Yeah, they did an amazing job with that, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah,
Or it's the route he's going to make us do if we all die.
yeah. Well, they'll just sell your bodies to Geb, and you'll wake up, and we'll play Bloodlords. It'll be great. Now, what you said earlier, though, did remind me that Lost Omens Travel Guide is coming out soon, and from what we've seen of it thus so far, it looks like an excellent resource for stimulating ideas for just little fun products. I mean, that looks like it has a bunch of little sections going into everything from like fashion to food. So
Yeah.
I can't guarantee it, but I'm fairly certain you could write more than what is in that book. I'm sure they went through a lot of the stuff in the Lost Omen setting, but there's a lot of countries, a lot of cultures, a lot of ground to cover, and there's always more room for Pathfinder Infinite products inspired by these frequent releases. So when that comes out, if you get an inkling to want to write something, get it out there, and people will be able to expand their travel guide collections with additional information about the everyday life in Golarion.
Very, very much so.
I'm so
Yeah.
pumped for that. I'm going to make so many products.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, well, Alex is the pop culture catalog king of writing everyday
Connoisseur,
stuff for
not a king.
Starfinder. Connoisseur? Connoisseur, okay.
Connoisseur.
Oh, yes, many awesome Starfinder products for everything from video games to restaurants and everything in between. And Alex, do you have any recent releases or any spoilers or news of what you might be working on now that we could look forward to?
Well, I'm working on my first product as an Infinite Master. I'm about, let's say, 67% done it. It's called Deviant Dossier. Sorry, Andrew, I'm stealing Dossier from you. And it, yeah, and it's basically a product that is an expansion of the Deviant ability system in Dark Archive. The idea is, let's have a whole bunch of new Deviant powers. Let's add a new category of Deviant powers that really muddles the mind in a way that the current ones don't. And let's have the whole thing narrated by another former member of the Dark Archive who thinks that KHH, who narrates the actual Dark Archive book, is very, very sus and is convinced that DHH is actually doing something very sinister with all of this research on weird paranormal phenomenon. So I'm very excited about it. It's been a lot of fun. And I have a lot of really weird powers. Like one of the ones I'm really excited for, I just finished watching Umbrella Academy, and so a lot of my powers are based off of like the weird supernatural quirks they have in that show. So I have one where you are going to be able to open interdimensional portals in parts of your body, and different limbs from creatures that you could summon using summoning spells will pop out, and it lets you strike with those creatures' body parts instead of your own natural weapons.
Cool.
Awesome. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
And awesome.
It's great. It's so horrifying. You know, it's loosely based off of Ben's character in Umbrella Academy, and he has like tentacles come out of his stomach. And in the comic book that Umbrella Academy is based off of, his superhero code name is the Horror. So you're right. It is very horrifying.
Sweet.
Right.
That sounds really cool.
Oh man. And Lisa, are there any exciting news or spoilers or promotions or anything you'd like to shout out to?
Goodness. I think what I would like to shout out is a resource list of free educational resources that I've started compiling. So there's a few things on there already, and it should grow. You can find it at bit.ly/make-ttrpgs, all lowercase. And in particular, since we focused so much on developing adventures and rules and how to make the thing, I want to draw everyone's attention to the marketing TTRPGs section, because that's going to be all your next questions after you've just published something on Pathfinder or Starfinder Infinite. In particular, there are tips on how to write a really effective product description, how to do comp title research. There is an analysis of TTRPG cover images on e-commerce sites that I did. And also our CEO wrote a few amazing articles about how to price TTRPGs, in particular PDFs, and the different considerations that go into what price you want to set.
Yeah. Price questions are always new creators always wondering where to price their products. And you can't always figure out exactly how to price it based exclusively on the existing products out there. So that is a very, very helpful resource that you could find there in chat. And
do you remember offhand anything about what cover images were particularly useful for selling stuff?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I did an analysis on a bunch of different traits. Weirdly, colors of blue and green were very prominent among some of the best selling titles. But in general, over 90%, something like 95, 97% of titles had a very clear, identifiable main one or two color palette. Which I think helps create like a really clear and attention grabbing, like tiny cover thumbnail. Also, covers that focused on one main person or object. In most cases, it's like one main sort of character or monster. Sometimes it's a couple of people, but like a zoomed in crop of them. And a few of the best selling titles also had a focus on maybe like a sword and a stone, if it was a magic item PDF. So I break it down by the contents of the image, colors, and a bunch of different things related to kind of design style and font and title choices.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's
awesome.
fascinating.
This stuff is just weirdly fascinating. I don't know.
It really is. Man, blue and greens tells me that people really like frog-hemoths.
Yeah, right?
I think
Definitely.
we've solved
Right.
it, really.
Truth.
Frog-Hemoth Infinite.
Yeah.
Frog-Hemoths of Golarion.
Because space is blue.
Oh, we do have one really interesting question in chat I want to hit on, asking, what do you think is being missed by the Infinite market that you wish developers would hit more on? What kind of products would you like to see more of in Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite?
Other than frog
You mean
hemoths.
are we talking about things that the people who are writing for Infinite are missing, or are we talking about things that Pathfinder developers are missing that Infinite is hitting? I'm not 100% sure on that question.
What do you think is being missed by the Infinite market that you wish developers would hit more on? They mean Pathfinder Infinite developers.
Okay. That's a tricky question because I'm one of those people who would be missing the market then. I think that one of the things that, yeah, I'm not wrong. I think one of the things that as a community that we could do better on is, I think that, man, something that we are not doing that we could be doing. I think that one of the things that I've seen is that there's a very big emphasis on player rules right now, and you're not really seeing as much of the lore and the flavor that, like, the setting expansions, like putting your own spin on Golarion. I think that I've seen like tons of things that are adding new feats, that are rebuilding classes, that are making magic items, but like part of the thing that's so much fun about Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite is like being able to add to the world, being able to say like, wow, I'm going to put this little hamlet right here, and I'm going to give you a thing that you could really use as like a story starter. Because in a lot of ways, I think Pathfinder especially is very effective at giving player characters new options regularly. So almost what is needed is like stuff that's inspirational, things that's going to like get your GM thinking like, wow, I could tell a really cool story here, or like getting a player to think, wow, I really want to set my character here. Like, you can obviously have rules and do that. You can have like, oh, this feat is usually taken by the aesthetics of this cool temple in the middle of the Chalexian mountains or whatever. But like just having that, like, that power to really take Golarion and put your own imprint on it, even if it's not like an official product, is just something that like I'm like, wow, I don't really see a lot of that. Like, even looking at the top 10 products right now, none of them are really like world flavor focused.
Right.
Is that a good answer?
And that is a great answer. And with that, though, our panel is coming to an end. So I do want to finish things off by making sure you all have an opportunity to tell people where they could find you and all your social media tags. So we'll go ahead down the line here, and I'll just start with Andrew White. Where can people find you?
I have a Twitter at Plague Control, and that's it. Pretty much.
All right. And Alex?
I also have a Twitter. It's at AlJAug, AUG. It's my initials kind of just smushed together. I also have a website that I do for Everybody Games for things that is not necessarily Infinite. You can find that at www.everybodygames.net. Both of those are pretty good places to follow me out. And obviously No Direction too, because I am on the No Direction Discord. Go to nodirectionpodcast.com and click on the Discord link and join the chillest community of Pathfinder fans ever. We make it that way.
Yeah. And Lysa?
My name is Lysa Penrose. You can find me personally at Lysa Penrose on pretty much every social media page. It's Lisa with a Y. I'm adopting a kitten today, so if you like cats, that's
Aw.
probably all I'm going to post about for forever. And then Pathfinder Infinite, you can follow at PF_Infinite. And if you are a customer or a creator on our marketplace, make sure you go into your account tab and opt into emails, because I write a really awesome newsletter that goes out every other week, and I would like more people to see my newsletter.
Read it.
Yes, love
Question
the
before we
newsletter.
end, though. Can we get a breach of NDA? Tell us, Lisa, what's the cat's name going to be?
Okay, a lot of people gave suggestions. She's a polydactyl kitty, so she's got like a thumb. So a lot of people said Mittens. We like the name Mochi so far because she's very small and cute. But we have to meet her and know her personality before it's final. But you heard it here first.
I have a cat whose
Got
name
it.
is Mochi, and I have another cat who
Oh.
wasn't polydactyl when I got him, but then grew a thumb, best I can tell. So I don't know why I'm telling you this, but yeah.
It's
All right, wait,
really
let me write this down.
interesting.
I need more deviant abilities for the deviant dossier. So grow
Infinite thumbs.
Got it.
Growing
Infinite thumbs. Yeah, infinite.
Excellent.
There's infinite possibilities for infinite thumbs, you know,
Yeah,
Dustin.
Infinite Thumbs is actually
no.
the name of a good name for a product on Infinite. Yeah.
Oh, all right. And my name is Dustin Knight. You can find me at Twitter at Warlock Kitsune, but I respond much more quickly on Discord at infinite.net, where I do a Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite show every Friday that you can find here on the official Paizo channel at 4 o'clock Pacific. Where I tend to review all the latest and greatest Pathfinder Infinite products, or interview the creators of those products. So if you are ever wondering, I'm just not sure if I want to use this in my campaign, I don't know, I need more Pathfinder books and I just don't know what to get next, that is a great resource for you, and you could always find show links for that at my Discord at infinite.net. So again, thank you everybody for the panel, and thank you Paizo, and thank you Gen Con for this wonderful opportunity to share our little community and all of our special skills that we've accumulated over the months. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
And this was fun.
Take it easy.